All right, welcome to the AVNI Interviews. We're your hosts, Eric Bork and Mikey Taylor.
What up?
We're the co-founders of AVNI, a brand for entrepreneurs. Here on the AVNI Interviews, we interview people doing the work they want and the lifestyle they love, and we talk about fire topics like today. What's going on, Mikey?
Just looking at Tommy, make sure I look good.
So Mikey was just doing what I need to do. He was doing a like, hey, do I look okay? I wore like a really bad beanie once and no one told me.
Yes, we did tell you. Are you kidding me? We told you so much. Before we started, we were like, are you going to wear that? What are you talking about, dude?
All right, well, guys, I don't know if I can go wrong today. Plain white shoes, all black. But Mikey has an orange beanie.
I've been riding
If you're
it for 2
listening,
weeks.
You need to go to YouTube and look at his orange beanie.
There we go.
It's so good.
Drive Track, come see us on YouTube, man.
YouTube.
Pay our YouTube some love, man. Pay homage.
Yeah, it's our YouTube. Some of them just do really well, and other ones just don't do as well on video, but those ones still get the listens. Okay, so really quickly before we jump into our topic for today, we got 2 things to plug real quick. We got our merch live on the site. It's avniintelligence.com, or you can go to Good Times. It's goodxtimes.com. And we got Good Times clothing and AVNI clothing, shirts, hoodies, hats, everything. So, and then also TechWorks Agency Academy. Anybody looking to start their own digital agency, that is what gave me the freedom to be independent and work for myself. So if that sounds of interest to you, honestly, man, I'm surprised at some of the students, like 18-year-old kids pulling in clients. Not that I should be, but it's nice to see it, and it's cool, it's rewarding to see it. Let's jump in. So our topic today, we're kind of going through this process right now, and this is the way we actually did kind of talk about this at the end of one of our episodes last time. I guess one way to say it is being the one, or basically making sure that you're looking at what needs to happen to get to the next level. And we're gonna run through this today. This is how I just recently did it. Well, we just recently did it. We looked at a level that we want to grow to. And it was kind of frustrating. Like, why aren't we growing faster? And then, I went through this process, and I want to share this process with the audience and then kind of discuss around it. So the process is this, if I want to be doing this or making this much money, what do I need to be doing every day? What are my activities? How much money am I spending on advertising? So what I did last week, and me and Mikey went over it, is I sat down and said, this is the level we want to be at in sales. What is going to happen if we're doing that? And then the list just started flooding in. Well, we'll be spending this much money on YouTube ads. We'll be spending this much money on Facebook ads. We'll be spending this much on pay-per-click. We'll be putting out this much content. We'll be doing these types of things. And I made a list and looked at that list and went, that's what I have to do now. So the process then becomes, I don't know why this always comes up, like maybe for me, because when I was a kid, like I always relate it to like dating. And like when you're trying to date the girls you want to date or the guys you want to date, it's like I didn't get girls when I was a kid. Like I just didn't, right? And then I was like, I want to date. And I remember being like, I got dissed so much when I was a little kid, right? And then I came to the realization, if I want to date like this type of girl, I need to like be the one. I need to be the one that attracts that type of girl. And I'm not talking about right now because I've been in a relationship for 8 years. And Mikey's been married. How long have you and Jen been together?
Been together or married?
Yeah, together. You've been married for 8 years.
This summer will be 9 years married. We dated for 5 years for that. 14
14, yeah. Wow.
Long time.
So it's been a long time.
I've been locked down for a long time.
You've been on lockdown.
And I love it. I love it.
Of course. So anyways, if you want to if someone wants to get to that level, the process is this. What activities are taking place if you get to that, when you are at that level? Now looking at that, I just got a list of like 25 things that now I can go and I can take action on.
So I think what you're saying is, how can you go from putting out fires to making sure you're doing the most efficient things with your time?
It's so funny, man, because this is why I enjoy my conversations with Mikey, is because you look at things from a totally different perspective, and it's like insightful, or it's like a good way to look at it. That wasn't what I was thinking, but that's like a great addition to what I was thinking. So you're kind of talking about scaling.
Well, scaling and not, I mean, yes, but just being efficient. Like, at least like for me and my personality, it's really easy for me to be all over the place.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So it can feel like I'm working my ass off, mm-hmm. but that doesn't mean I'm accomplishing a lot at times. Like I could be like over here and then over here and then over here instead of just a straight line forward. Mm-hmm. So for me, and what I have to do being this personality is put people around me mm-hmm. that are more, whether it's an assistant or an ops, like I need structure in my life because I'm really good at just like pushing forward and like putting down tasks, but I need the pathway to get there. So the thing I always think about is you don't want to be like running from like putting out fire to fire.
Yeah.
Right. That's more my struggle. But now I kind of see what you're saying in a sense of like, if you want to be the best at your craft or be the most successful, mm-hmm. what are the things you need to do to become that?
Yeah.
And to me, I think both are solved by the same problem: systems. Mm. Right? It's like just creating a system or a roadmap of things you need to do to drive you towards that path. Right? For me, it's I need to have like to-do lists and schedules, and this is what I'm focusing on doing. I think with you, it was like, okay, I shouldn't even say with you, with our company, mm-hmm. what is our goal with our company? Is it we want to do 1 million rev in 19? Well, why aren't we doing that now? Mm-hmm. And what things need to come into place for us to do it, and not just talking about it, actually, and this is why I'm thankful for you, because clearly this is not my skill set. I won't create the big poster of our vision board and our to-do list and our sales, and so that's what you did. I think is kind of what you're saying, right? Of like, okay, if this is our goal to do this, what is everything that needs to go in to do that? And once you can see it, it becomes really easy to just take action on it, right? It's just, oh, okay, I do this. Oh, now I do this. Now I do this. Now we're doing 1 million a year.
Well, and also kind of your point, after you said that, that's a good point, because in making this list of like, where do we want to be at, by June, right? I think it's a very good point to say a lot of times you do things to put out fires, or because that's, there's a lot of things you can do in the day that aren't getting you to that goal. Yeah. So in creating that list, I now have very specific dialed things where if I do the things on this list and I like master these things and do them and that's what my life looks like in 3 months, that's going to happen. Like our goals are going to happen. So I think and there's another aspect to it also and this we kind of talked about when we had Greg Harris on, is...
Before you go to that, are you going to remember it?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, because it just reminded me. So I went to Peter's mastermind last weekend, and there was probably...
Let's give a little context. Are you going to tell about the event? Tell a little bit about the event.
Okay, so Peter Vogue does like a mastermind. He does masterminds, and he did a mastermind this last weekend in Big Bear for people who own their own business. I think like you had to do, over $1 million a year to be able to be in it. It was for like a higher level. Mm-hmm. It was all about scaling, and there was 4 people there with marketing agencies, and I told you about it, and there was someone there who was like very similar to the stage we're in. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about scaling it, and you could tell, so it was Peter and Mark was like telling him all these things that he needed to do, but you could tell there was a disconnect. Like he wasn't understanding what his steps were to do it. And I think that happens a lot of times with like I have a lot of people, even when we start talking about real estate. Oh dude, that sounds really cool. Like, yeah, I want that, but like, where do I even start? Where's starting point? Where's the line go? And once, like, you know, Peter was like kind of recognized, he's like, hey, what aren't you getting? And he was just clearly like, I don't know, I get what you're saying, but like, what the hell is my next step?
Yeah.
What am I actually going to do?
Yep.
And then it was like, oh, okay, look, you need to find these agencies. These are the criteria of the agencies. Do you know how you could go find that? Yeah. So this is the type you're looking for, and this is blah, blah. And he was like, all of a sudden, he was like, got it. And you could tell, like, once you understand what your steps are, it's a lot easier for all of us to just go take action. We get lost when it's like, you just don't even know where up is.
Yep.
And even with us, like in the startup phase or in this time, and anyone who's like in a similar stage as we are, you don't really have, you're not big enough yet to have like a ton of employees, a ton of systems. It's like, you almost feel underwater at all times. So it's really easy to like not pull your head up in a sense.
100%. And that, having that clarity of, okay, so you're talking about the person that was like, I'm not sure like where
I'm blanking his name. I think his name's Justin. But
okay. But like, what are the next steps? If you establish where you want to be, which we have clearly done now, and you outline what it looks like when you're doing that, to name off some specifics, which I just kind of said a second ago, but it's how much money are we spending in ads? Where are we advertising? What types of ads are we doing? What do our sales videos look like? What does our content look? And this is where it gets exciting for us right now, because I know we've talked about this in a lot of episodes, but it's kind of like we're different than a lot of the information guys, like the digital product guys. And so for us, it's been this huge process of like, how do we define our brand and what AVNI is? And it's really exciting because it's starting to be really well defined and be something that we think is going to be really cool. Not that it's not already, but that is going to grow into something that can become really big. So for me, that's so exciting to see that. But this process is basically look at the next level, that level, and then write down the steps of, if I'm at that level, what am I doing? I guess this is the question. What am I doing every day? How am I spending my time? And what it does is it just instantly gets rid of all the obstacles that you're doing. And for me, there was a couple things that I looked at and I was like, why am I even doing this? I shouldn't even be spending a second on this. And I'm spending all this time doing this thing that's not getting me to where I want to go. Yeah. So that process, I think is super valuable. And then you brought up something earlier about the external part of it. So that's like the first part. It's like the first part is identifying the level you want to be at, and then basically making yourself do the things that will, so you're functioning like you are on that level until you are functioning and on that level. Once you do that, then you have like the external part of it. Do you want to talk about that now, or do you want to talk about that later?
What's the external part?
The external part being being an authority in your area.
Oh yeah, we can talk about that later.
Okay, let's talk about that later. I did talk about this last week, but I'm gonna like reemphasize. This is something I'm on a tear for right now. Is I want to be the best at this. Like, I want to get to this certain level that I have mapped out, but in order to do that, there's certain things that I didn't have the skill, and I still don't, some of them. So what I did is I basically stepped back and realized I need to be the best at like these specific skills. So let's run through like a couple of scenarios for people. The one that we get the most is, I'm in this position, I don't want to be in this position, how do I get out of this position? And then also I want to run through, because you just went through this with Commune, and I like focusing on both.
Yeah, that's fine.
Your activities are on such a high level. I want to make sure we give an analogy of like the common questions we get, which is either I'm working a job and I want to get out of the job and do my own thing. So let's kind of run through a scenario real quick. Why don't you start it?
Okay, what am I running through?
The scenario of someone hits you up on DM and they say, I want to work for myself. What do I do?
Okay, so when I get that, the first thing that I think you need to do is address address what you want to do. A lot of people like, look, when you're in a shitty situation, everyone wants to get out of the shitty situation, right? To me, the first thing you do is like, well, what do you want to do? What's going to make you happy, right? And I think a lot of people don't think that your job can be the thing that is your passion at the same time. So typically what I tell people or ask people, like, what do you enjoy? And they'll give me like, oh, I like doing this, I like doing this, I like doing this. And then it's like, well, out of those three things, like let's say you like fishing, right? You don't have to be, is there like a pro fisher? Does that exist?
Yeah.
I always say like, look, you don't have to be a pro fisher. There's a lot of things in the maybe fishing community.
Dude, no, it's a huge world.
So there's so many things in the fishing community that you could be a part of, right? 100%. So like, have you looked at like what those could be? And usually it's like, no, I never thought that like my passion could be a job, right? And then typically like, see, there's a thing of like, for people that have never started a company, I don't know if, depending at what stage you're at, you're not always in a position to just go start a company, right? I think if you're young, yeah, go for it. But like if you're working a job, you're a little older, maybe you're have a wife, kids, you can't just at all times start something. So to me, it's like, look, find a company that you like in an industry that you like or you have interest in, and try and go get a job first and start seeing how that business works in that environment, and use it as a learning tool to go, these are all the things I would need to know, all the connections I need to make to then go do this on my own. And so that's usually what I say. I think like for a lot of people, it's harder to just like get themselves to move forward on something. But I don't know, dude, in this day and age, it's so easy to have like a side thing. Right? Like a lot of people might not love their job, and if they could do something on the side that makes them happy, usually it can offset like how shitty this is, as long as this thing's like getting them closer and closer until they could just step away. I think a lot of people just have a hard time recognizing what it is.
Yeah, and then also a very common scenario is sometimes people know what it is and they're like, like why am I not there? Like I'm not getting there. And one thing that I've noticed is that there's a tendency to like get to a certain level and then be comfortable with that level. And then stop the progress. So that's kind of where this process is super helpful of, okay, well, I've gotten 20%, but I'm really not going to be happy until I'm like 90%, like where I want to be. So at 20, 30%, what are the activities that are going to lead to that, like getting to the goal? And I know for me, what's going to happen is there's an initial goal that I have for us with AVNI, and then we're going to be looking at, okay, reassess now what's the big play, right? We have like the foundation going, and then
you gotta create the vehicle before you can drive it, right?
For sure. Yep. So it's funny because I actually usually take a different, when I've talked to a few people about this week, and one is take an inventory of what you're good at. You know what I mean? Like take an inventory, I
think you need to take inventory of what you're good at and what you're bad at.
And what you're bad at, yep, and what you're bad at. But especially like look at the strengths that you already have. And a lot of times there's a reason why you've done something your whole life. You know, like you're usually like kind of good at it. For me, like talking with people, like networking, it's funny because you're like very social also. Most of the people aren't as social as you.
Butterfly, huh?
Dude, you're like a socialite.
Well, dude, you know what? I think one thing, just kind of what you said to touch on, you have to find out like what your superpower is.
Yeah.
You have to. Like if you don't know what you're the best in the world at, you're not taking advantage of any skill set. So I think it's like recognize what you're the best at, look at what you're bad at, and don't necessarily like fix the bad, but the things you're bad at, you need to put people around you to help with the bad.
Let's touch on that.
Okay. Yeah.
So once you make this list, there's going to be certain things on this list of where you're operating, and down the road, there's certain things that you won't be able, like you can't get to that level if you're not able to do the things on that list, right? So I have this list that I just recently made for our next level. And there's certain things that on that list, I may look at and go, I'm not the person to do that, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what you were saying. I just wanted to kind of emphasize that.
Yeah, I think like, it's why I'm on this whole like self-development kick.
That's what I'm talking
Because
about.
like, I really do think the more you know about yourself, the more successful you can be. And even like, dude, this is the most I've ever known about me. And it's what's allowed me, and look, I have a lot more to go. I'm not saying I've mastered it, but I know what I'm really good at, and I know what I'm really bad at. So I want to spend all my time on the things that I'm really good at, because I know these things I'm better than other people at. And these things that I suck at, there's a lot of people better than me at it. So it's like, but you have to surround yourself with people to carry that for you, or now you're like, you have to have balance at the same time.
For sure.
So you have to know yourself. Like,
so what are the things you've recently realized that you're good at that you didn't know before? Or did you know?
Well, see, I always knew that I liked people. I didn't totally understand that, like, I'm really good at networking with people. I'm really good at getting out into circles of influence that like I don't have an into.
Yeah.
I'm really good at just putting myself everywhere, right? I found out that about myself. That's probably the newest one, actually. The other things like, I'm not an operations guy. I have a ton of energy, and I can work and push through any type of struggle, but I need efficiency. I've always needed somebody to help me like structure it. But yeah, like with what I'm doing, like for Commune, for example.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Like where I really succeed with Commune is like now that we're doing a capital raise, I'm out getting in front of new people to raise money. So I'm really good at networking and driving that into leads to be part of our brand. Networking is really good when we're talking about brokers, talking about whether it's for a building, for finance. It's like, if you're good at being around people, relationships are what drives everything. So if you need to get like off-market deals, you have to form a relationship with the broker, right? You have to form a relationship with a broker for financing. It's like everything is relationship based, and I know that's a skill set of mine. So that's a really good part of what I'm doing with Commune that I know I'm really good at. And then another thing I feel like a skill set of mine is being able to do that on camera, to then have like a digital version of it kind of going out there. And then I'm obsessive. So then I obsess over like building it and, I think that would be probably a good skill set of how I'm using it towards Commune.
As far as what you've done, like your list for Commune, what are the things that about 3 months ago, I think you made this whole like outline of everything you guys need to be doing with Commune. So what does that list look like for Commune?
Now or 3 months ago?
No. I mean, whichever one you want, but there's a lot of things that you've put into place. Oh, I mean like the things that have been put into place, and that maybe some things that you're going to put into place, but more the things that you guys need to be doing to push forward the machine.
Yeah, so a big part of us is our marketing initiative.
Break that down.
So prior to January, we weren't really doing much on marketing. We were so swamped with building out the fund, raising the money for our first project. We got a second project, so all of our focus was going towards that. Now that like we have our systems in place, I really wanted to start focusing on the brand. And to do that, I didn't feel like I would be able to be out there raising the money and out there building the marketing side as well. So I brought on a team to help with that. And a part of it, a lot of it was just breaking out, like, what is our goal? What is my end goal? And kind of what we listed out was, we want to influence and show the next generation, a realistic conversation of how we think they need to be planning for their future, right? Like for me, what I think is our culture teaches us that like you need to be flashy, you need to buy nice shit, you need to look more successful than you are. There's nothing that's telling you to live below your means. There's nothing that's telling you to budget. There's nothing that's like, you know, even when it comes to investing, like the only investing we hear about is like these tech startups that did like $250 million raises, now it's $1 billion. There's no like, that's not real to me. It's like, you know what I'm saying? I have such a more conservative path to how you create wealth that like wasn't taught to me. It wasn't taught to me in the conventional way. I didn't learn it at school. The people around me in skateboarding, no one talks about money. It's like, think about how awkward it is for you to go, hey man, how much did you make last year? Like it's something that is not normal for us. So we really want to start the conversation so that the generation below us and even around us sees like how we're openly talking about what we're doing. So hopefully you can see whether it's me or Paul or someone that you look up to, the way we're looking at this industry, the way we invest, the way we budget. Like I'm sick of like this fake narrative to everybody that's ultimately going to get everyone burned. So a big part of our marketing is that, to try to like be like the alternative to everything that's out there.
And it's funny because it's almost like our generation had this huge push of the mentality, and back then there was really two big books. The first one was Rich Dad Poor Dad. Yeah. And our generation read Rich Dad Poor Dad. Yeah. And that was like the iconic piece of like how people thought about money. And then there was The Millionaire Next Door, which is very different. Which now I think that book's very like, I don't know if it's still relevant. I
read Millionaire Next Door.
It's not, what's that?
I read it. I mean, it was really good. I think Rich Dad Poor Dad was the one though.
Rich Dad Poor Dad was the one. Let's talk about Rich Dad Poor Dad. So that's been kind of our challenge with AVNI.
You know what? Sorry, dude.
It's okay.
I just want to stop because I didn't even really answer your question now I think of it. Basically, we established what we were doing and then we had to then build it out. So it was like, okay, how are we doing this? So these are the videos we're going to post. This is the scheduling. These are the things we want to do.
Talk about a little bit about specifics. So can you talk about, you're going to do a series about education, right?
Yeah.
So educating people.
So I'll be very specific. Okay. So with Commune, we wanted to make these pieces on people like Paul or some of our investors of influence and build a video around how they look at their world and we're able to create this like life that they love living. Yep. And so that was one aspect. So we did a video on Paul that was released 2 days ago, and we're going to continue to do those videos moving forward. Yep. And then there was another thing we wanted to do where I want to educate people. I want to educate people on like things that I feel weren't taught to me. So, okay, there's going to be our series on people. There's going to be our education, and in that education, so we had to basically start at the first floor. What are the things that people need to learn on like the most basic level? Okay, these are the points we want to touch. Schedule the thing. Go film them. Now we have 3 months of posts on that education side. Yep. And then now we just, okay, hit the button every Friday, that. And then we want to do a give back. So there's a give back lane. So we created lanes of the pieces that we want to create, and then we just go out and create them, and then we post them. Yep. You know, so that's one side that we built out on the marketing side, and then we do the same thing. The buildings aren't as easy to build out like marketing. Yeah. Marketing, you could just go create it out of nothing. Buildings, you need to find the opportunity, so you can't really put it together the same way. Yeah. Even on raising money though, it's like I had to get very efficient with the way I was spending my time meeting with people instead of it was follow through for me, right? Like I'm really good at like meeting with people. I love like telling people what we're doing, wanting to get them involved. This is the picture, this is the vision. And then once I leave, there's so much more that goes into follow up on having an investor actually come in. And the first one, I think with the first building, I was in such panic mode that we had to raise all this money in a very short amount of time because we had the building under contract, that it was just like, okay, I'm going to get out in front of 6 people every single day for 2 months. And now I've pitched to like 100 people, but there was no follow-up. It was just the people like, I'm in, here's the money, boom. Like it was like done. There was no system in a sense, because it was like, it was just quick. You know, now I have more time. So we've really built out a system that is way more efficient of, okay, I'm not going to go pitch to 25 people in 2 weeks. I'm going to pitch to 6 people in 1 week. And then I'm going to spend the next week following up with them and getting a gauge on if they're a hard yes, hard no, or somewhere in the middle. And then we have a system for the people that said yes, said no, and then middle. And the middle moves on to the next week. And it's way more efficient with how we're going about this. Was another kind of strategy, I'd say.
The system that you put into place.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that was kind of how you built out the like that middle, that list of, and I will say this, you now, because you were doing so much in the beginning, have brought on a lot of people to like,
I have some help now.
Yeah, you have help doing it now.
Yeah.
Whereas at that point you were describing, gosh, I haven't thought about that in a while. You were like killing yourself every day.
The first 4 months of that thing were a complete blur. Yeah. I seriously, like, there's a lot of things I don't even remember. It was just like, it was just crazy. But yeah, I have a lot of help now, which is really nice.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Dude. So that's a good gauge on it. So basically, let's talk a little bit about that though, about create this list, and then this is the whole, have you read the E-Myth? You have, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of the whole, for anybody that
20 Mile March, is that E-Myth?
No, that's Great by Choice.
Oh, that's Great by Choice. I don't know if I've read E-Myth.
No, you have. Now that I asked, I remember, because it was when we were still skating Beebles, I think. So I'm going to describe it a little for anybody that hasn't, and you'll remember. So basically in E-Myth, what he says is, create the structures that your company needs to, the job positions, right? So look at your company and say, in order for this company to be firing at this much revenue, we need to have 14 people as a random number, 14 people that are doing this, and this is their job description, this, and this is their job, this, and you basically map out your entire company, and then you put it together as an entrepreneur, and there's 3 of you. So you need 14 people, and you have 3, or you have 2, or sometimes you just have 1, right? Yeah. But you know that you have to have those 14 people in place to be generating the type of money that you want. So this is kind of more like a detailed breakdown of it. So then what you do is you take those positions and you say, okay, we have 3, so we're gonna split them up. You get these 6, you get these 4, and you get these 4. And you take responsibility knowing that you're gonna be passing those job titles off, and that's how you bootstrap and get going in the beginning. E-Myth is a super good book. So that's kind of and I would highly recommend that to anybody that's like looking at like, it kind of answers the question of why do so many businesses go out of business when they're just starting. And what he says is, basically you get to the point where you are controlling everything. So it's working because you're controlling it, and you don't know how to like let off the brakes or let people operate so that the company can grow. And a lot of entrepreneurs, that's where they fail. Is they're successful. They get their company to, $250,000 a year, and then they can't step back and delegate those 14 job positions.
$250,000 a year ain't gonna get you to delegation.
Well, no. Well,
14 positions aren't gonna be filled up by $250 a year.
No, I was talking about when you're at the 3 level.
Oh.
So no, like, but no, what, so let me re-explain if I didn't explain that right. Okay. What he said is that if you, like a lot of entrepreneurs are like one-man shows.
Yes.
Are you remembering this now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So they're like one-man shows. So they'll get their business to like $250,000 a year, but they're micromanaging everything. Right?
Yeah.
And then they need to get like the next step, like 500,000 or $1 million. But the reason that they don't go from there to there is because it never goes past that 3 people level
Yeah.
to the 14-person level where they want to be operating.
Yeah, it's like the 4-hour work week. And so you have to be building these companies so that they can live without you or survive without you.
The 4-hour work week?
Yeah, wasn't that his whole point of like, it's not only work 4 hours a day, it's getting to a point where you're delegating people to work for you so you can...
4-hour work week was about working only 4 hours a week.
Did you read it?
Yeah.
Am I tripping?
I think so.
Really?
I think so. Wait, 4-hour work week, Tim Ferriss.
Yeah, maybe I'm tripping. Wasn't his whole thing that like he could be on vacation on this island for like 3 months and his business is running for himself?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like basically creating a business so it could run without you is goal for every entrepreneur is what it should be.
Yeah.
But entrepreneurs have a hard time letting go of control because they're so good at doing everything themselves, and then they have a hard time having other people do things for them, whether that's control, feeling like they could do it better than them, whatever it is. Yeah. Skaters suffer from that. I suffer from that.
Skaters?
Yeah, because we do everything ourselves. Like a skater, it's different than like a football player. Right? Because a football player has a coach that tells them what to do, and they just do it with a team. We're skaters, we're out here on our own.
Yeah.
There's no one telling us to do anything. We're in 100% control of every single thing we do.
Yep.
You know, so to like step out of that was a hard thing for me. Is like learning how to work with people. Really hard for me. And I'm good with people. Challenging, dude.
Well,
you and I struggle at times. Is that why you're smiling?
No, we could talk about that if you want, but I was more laughing because I was remembering like, and I did this too, like remember when we were pro athletes? You were a pro athlete for 15 years. I was a pro athlete for like 1.5 or something. But remember we would go into companies and like try to tell them what to do?
Yeah, it's terrible. I almost got kicked off a sponsor for that. Yeah.
We'd go in and be like, hey, you guys in the sales team, you need to do this.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, what? Get this guy out of here.
Totally.
Okay, so just to kind of recap, the process is establish the level you want to be at, right? So for eMyth, you write the job positions out. Then you break down, you have a list of everything that needs to be done. Then you look at where you're at now, and you look at in between there, what are the things that need to be done in order to get to that level. So that's kind of and in the process also, what are the skills that I need to learn? And what are the skills that I'm not good at that other people can do better? So what are you not good at? I'm surprised you haven't flipped it around on me yet.
Things that I am not good at.
I'll start. Okay, no, if you got one, go.
I'm not an operations person.
Okay.
There's nothing about me that's structured in a sense.
Yeah, that's true.
You know? That's a struggle for me. I can be all over the place. So like my mind is kind of all like this. So you can see how that would be frustrating when somebody's just like, hey dude, I just need you to go here. You know, I am not good at that.
Yeah.
I know there's more. I should pull out my whole personality test, dude.
You know,
if I'm not, here's a big one. If I'm not interested in it, I am like a wall to talk to.
Yeah.
It's just nothing there. And it sucks because it's really hard for me to like fake it because it come off like very lame, you know?
Yeah.
But like that's a challenge of mine. Like people are talking about something that like I have a hard time focusing.
Yep.
Focus for me. Focus is hard. If I'm into it, you have 120% of my focus. If I'm not into it, it's just you know? That's a struggle. I know there's more. A bunch are going to come to me.
Yeah.
But those are struggles.
That's
ADD, dog.
ADHD, right?
I don't know what the thing is, but I know I'm like got something in there.
ADD. So
what are your struggles?
Would you like to say them or
your struggles?
No,
because I might drop struggles that are different than one you're going to drop. So I don't want to.
Okay, so I would say my strengths. Or are we just talking about my weaknesses?
Weaknesses.
Okay, weaknesses. You know what's a really funny one for me? And I think you and probably a couple people in this room have seen this.
How moody you are?
What's that?
How moody when you don't eat?
Oh, yeah. That's a crazy one, man. I'll be like, you know who's great about that is P-Rod. Whenever we're with Paul, like I know, like, hey, is anyone hungry? Paul's like, I am.
Yeah.
He eats like me.
No, but that's not a weakness. That's just like a...
No, I wasn't going to say that. What I was going to say is my dad actually taught me this one. My dad was like, you know, I was working with, you know, some really high level people, and he's like, it was like, what you need to do is just learn how to just let things go. Because and I'm not good at it. And they would have like board meetings and meetings where they would be like screaming at each other and yelling, and then they'd like be like, okay, bro, let's go out and eat. And like my dad would be like, I would like hang on to it and like be mad. And that's something I struggle with. Like if I get into something, I get so hyper focused on like what I want that it's almost like I have to tell myself to stop. And like now I've learned to just realize it's a flaw in me. And be like, I'm blowing it. And that was also something like early on in like relationships with me. It's like I wouldn't let stuff go. And then now, like, I just have to be like, it always gets worked out. Like, it's just not going to get worked out right now.
I'm going to take that as, that actually I think is one of my skills, is that I don't hold on to anything.
It's a full skill, but sometimes you get over it so fast and you like start joking and I'm like still pissed.
Yeah, totally. We have issues with it. That's the reason I said it. Yeah, because I get so over it, but it takes you a little longer.
And it's almost like you're like rubbing it in like, hey, bro. That's one I struggle with. Another one I struggle with is like, well, it's two sides. It's a strength and a weakness, but like I really get like dialed in. Like when something's working, I'll like repeat it. But when I'm not in that cycle yet, I have to get myself into the cycle. So what happens with me that I've recognized is sometimes I'll get into like the wrong cycle, and that cycle's not producing. And I'm so like almost mechanical about like what I think is working.
It takes you a while to recognize it, change.
To shift direction and course takes me recreating a new cycle, which is for some people it's not hard. Let's do this.
Yeah.
I guess another one would be I like
It's turning into like a therapy session.
What's that?
Turning into like a therapy session.
Well, this is important though.
Yeah.
Think about it. To get where you want to go.
No, I'm totally with you. I think this is like a thing that people don't do enough of, is like actually be honest with themselves.
Dude,
and figure out like the things that are your insecurities. What are your challenges? What are your struggles? What are your strengths? And start building out the person you want to be with those in mind.
100%. And I think this is usually when someone's not getting somewhere, it's because of them.
Yeah, totally.
When I'm not getting somewhere, it's because of me.
Yeah, totally.
Right? And that's really the only outlook that I think is like almost healthy to have. And you don't want to become neurotic. You don't want to like beat yourself up. My next one was limiting beliefs. That's one that I have that I struggle with, is like,
I struggle with that too.
Sometimes I just don't believe something's possible and I psych myself out of it.
Yeah.
And that's like, I had a conversation with Omar the Rockstar a little bit ago, and and he's funny because he's like very like, bro, you just got a limiting belief and you need to get over that. And he said that to me and I was like, bro, you're right. Like I was like so tripped out on this point of like, and it had to do with our product, and he's like, no, you're tripping. He's like, I just talked to this guy, and Omar's funny, man. He's always talking to like he's always talking to like Ed Milet or like Grant Cardone or like.
Yeah, he's a good networker. He's good at getting in front of people.
He's so good at it. But he'll tell me, he'll be like, dude, you're tripping, man. I just talked to this dude yesterday. He's 17, he did 10 times what you just said, same thing. I'm like, you're right.
Yeah.
You know? So not having limiting beliefs.
I struggle with that too, seriously.
Yeah, so, and I will re-emphasize, this is one of the most important like things to do, is look like, why am I not doing this? And what is it in me that there's that list of things to do, but what am I doing to stop myself from getting to that level?
Yeah.
And that's why I brought up the E-Myth, is because most entrepreneurs get to that level where they have a successful like $250,000 a year business with 2 employees, and they can't let the reins off of one of those employees because they think they can do everything better than those 2 people. So they're never going to replace not even those 2 people, because they can't let those 2 people go, like have the freedom to then bring on a 3rd person and the 4th, all the way, to, whatever, however many people it is. So That's kind of a good gauge on the process. Any other strengths we should touch on?
Strengths?
Yeah.
For you?
Should we talk about my strengths? I was thinking about you. If you want to talk about my strengths, man, go ahead.
I know there's different strengths. I just like know like the thing I'm like really, really good at. Like I think like strengths, like I'm good working with people. I think I'm a good leader. I think I have like a decent eye when it comes to like anything visual. I think I'm good at storytelling, which is really helpful in a brand, telling a brand story or message. But I think most of my skill set is really like people wise. You know?
So dude, I have a question for you. And I hope I'm not like, I hope I don't get like destroyed here. So, I've had this thing my whole life. Like I have this process. It's how I've kind of done everything. And I would like some actual feedback. Me and Mike, you've never talked about this before.
All right.
Okay, so this is how things happen for me.
Okay.
It's been my whole life, dude. I go out and I try, like, I have like courage and I go out and I like want to accomplish something big, and then I get started and I get like a big win. Like right out the gates. Beginner's luck. I have beginner's luck all the time. And then once I have that, it takes me so long to like get from the like initial win to like a pro level or like a high level. And what I've been thinking about recently is like, why does it take me so long to get there? Skateboarding was this way for me. Skateboarding, I was like really good when I was a kid. And then I had to try for like 10 years before I got sponsored. It took forever. So as someone that's known me and seen me, what do you think I could do to like shorten that gap? Because that's kind of what we're talking about right now.
Well,
and hopefully some of the listeners can relate to this.
I think there's a part of it that's like a gift and a curse, right? Like how you approached skateboarding is how you approach everything. You think of like the one thing that is like gonna make such a big splash. Here I am, boom, right? I'm gonna switch frontside flip the triple set in Santa Monica.
And it works.
I'm gonna 50-50 this 41 stair, right? It does work, but the amount of time it takes to pull off something like that, there will naturally be gaps, right? Where it's a different approach to like for me, for example, I never approached my career of like, what can I do that's like gonna be this like, I call backsmith El Toro and people are gonna trip, and it's not how I looked at it. I looked at it as just like, hit a single, hit another single, hit another single, just non-stop baby steps.
Yeah.
So now the thing is, I don't think there's a right or wrong way, unfortunately. I think like if you looked at like mine, it would maybe on paper look like there was no time in between. It was just boom, 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 boom. And maybe I got to here where like your approach might be boom, boom, boom. And we all get to you might get to the same end goal. You just need to recognize that on that strategy, there's gonna be blank spots because you have to put so much more work into pulling off such a big task.
Yeah.
You know? It'd be like it's hard to say if it's, I think you just need to understand it. It's like, this is my model. This is how my approach is. And I need to know that like, dude, it's going to take me 5 years to pull this thing off. It's that big. You know?
I don't like the time, right?
Well, if you don't like the time, you got to scale back the vision.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've come to is like,
right? Elon Musk, hey, look, I want to go to Mars, but shit, I'm going to go to the moon first. And then I'm going to go to this. And then, you know what I'm saying? Like, just, you got to bring it back if you don't want to go through all the lead time in between.
It's so funny though, because like, that's literally what I've always done. And it's like what I know. So now I'm not like, I don't think people should change their MO. I think like you have your MO and it works, right? And I have my MO and it works. It's just kind of frustrating at times, but, that's just always what I've done. I want to, and you brought that up, switch frontside flip the triple set.
Switch frontside the triple set, 50-50 the 41 stair. Teach people how to learn through symbols. right? It's always these like game changer goals, which is there's a part of it that I see and recognize that I'm like so impressed by, because a part of me wishes I was like that. I'm just not like that. You know, so it's like, I think you need to just, if I were to maybe challenge it or help it, looking at it, okay, if this is where I want to go, but I don't like I can't deal with the process, then something has to give.
Yeah.
Right? And to me, you have two options. You bring down the goal a few notches, which will shorten the time frame, or you have to put a ton of people around you to help you get to that goal quicker. That's only two options I see.
Yeah. So,
or just becoming comfortable in the process of how long it takes.
So I'll tell you what I struggle with though. What I don't know is, should I build a $10 million company or a $100 million company?
All depends on what your goal is. What do you want to do?
Well, that's what I'm saying. What I struggle with is like, where should I set the goal that's 100 million?
Depends. It depends what your goal for doing it is. Is it to maximize how much money you're going to make? Is it to reach the most people? Is it for clout? What is the point of having a $100 million company over a $10 million company?
So it's funny, because I don't know if we ever talked about this, but my personal goal, like my motive behind all of it, is I want to leave behind the most valuable things in the world. Okay. Like, I want to create the most valuable, things, like how someone could learn how to like make money and like actually do it and go out and like change their life from like, I was doing something I didn't like, I got into this. And then same thing, like with like, and I want to be careful in saying this is not what I'm saying we're going to do next. I'm saying this is my motive, my end game. With health, I think there's a huge problem with health right now, because your demand is all like pretty unhealthy food, especially outside of California. Yeah. Like what you can get on every street corner is so bad for you. And then also like the things that we know cause cancer, the things that we know cause, you have to be so psycho to eat a good type of diet. It's so hard to do. So creating a system for that, like that's my motive.
Well, this is what I would say. If this is your motive, I don't know if that's revenue based.
It's not. No, it's not revenue based.
Okay, so if that's your goal, then I'd ask you, what's the difference between 100 million and 10 million? Is it to make more money?
I think it's to be able to reach more people.
But why is, okay, so then in theory you'd have more revenue to then have a bigger team behind you to put out more to the audience?
Yeah, and hit mass.
Yeah, okay.
Like if you have $100 million company, you can hit mass. Think about like the projects. Yeah, but you know what though?
I'm with you on the size of projects you can do. Mm-hmm. I'm with you on that. I don't know if it is the same anymore though.
Well, that's an interesting conversation. Why do you say that?
Well, think about it. Like, let's pick a huge company. I don't know.
I was more thinking about people and having reach, like building a social media following. Like
that's what I'm saying. I don't know if dollars should translate into being able to build or reach more people, but like, gosh, I don't know if God, I'm already having that. I can argue. You argue both sides into nothingness. Yeah. That's almost a tough argument to have. I get what you're saying.
So the motives, like I have the motive. My motive is I want people to basically like be able to like look at like, let's say down the road, like once everything's firing how it is, the 6 areas that we have right now, go into health. Let's say we were to go into that. I would want to create the most valuable system for health in the world. The coolest, everybody loves it. Like it just, thank you for this. And I'm giving this to my children. That's the motive. And I want to do that with money, with health, with a lot of different areas. So the motives there, I guess what I struggle with is like how much do I set my goal, our goal at 100 million in revenue? Do I set it at 10? Like, I don't know how to, like 10X says you set it way more than you can accomplish, right?
Yeah.
You don't do this, do you?
No.
You don't have a number for the fund, do you?
No.
Yeah, that's always like fascinated me.
No, because the thing is, this is the challenge with the fund. It's kind of what we just talked about. $100 million fund doesn't mean you're making more money than a $50 million fund. Because when you start getting into that, when you start getting into the bigger numbers, a handful of things happen. The type of investor you're getting changes, and so you're giving up, we would be giving up return on our side to cater to that investor. So that now means that if, let's say in theory, we're giving up half of what we're getting now the fund has to be twice the size to get the same amount. On top of that, you need to be able to deploy capital also. So if you're going to raise $500 million, you need to have $1.5 billion to put the capital into. So, and it doesn't, I don't know if it always, I don't know if it means more. I don't know yet. For me, it's like I like a lot of stuff Grant says. I like having like these big goals.
Perfect example, St. Archer. You guys, I don't think you had the goal to sell it.
Well, yes and no. Yes and no. The reason I say that is like, we had to sell it to make money. You know, we definitely didn't have the goal to sell it that soon. No. But like...
when I would talk to you about it when you guys were starting it, it wasn't like you were doing it like, we're going to do this or we're going to exit. Like, I don't think...
It wasn't planned out. Like, it wasn't like, okay, day one, we're going to do this. We're going to get to this point, year one. We're going to be exiting year 4. It wasn't that. No.
It's just your approach is like so much different.
I think it's like I like Grant's idea, and I do think there's a lot of truth in it, that when you set a goal, you start making decisions based on that goal. So if your goal is to be a $100 million company, why are you going to be going and taking clients on for a $2,000 retainer? That client doesn't help you get to your goal.
Totally.
Right? So there is a lot at play of setting your goal and doing things that are driving you towards that. For me, it's just like, I just want it to be as big as it possibly can. And so like, I'm more focused on the mission. I think that's what it is at the end of the day. I'm more focused with the mission and less focused with the number of what our fund's valued at. If it's $1 billion fund or a $20 million fund, it's more about if I can accomplish the mission that we're setting out to do. And it's less about size. I want it to be big because I want it to be as successful as possible, but there's just more driving me than just that.
Okay, so let's do this to kind of like put some framework on this before we end. So from your perspective, I've given my perspective on look at where you want to be, make a list, look inside, what skills do you need to have, what are you not good at? This list will be basically your checklist of I can do everything I need, or I can, get it done, have other people do it. Stay focused on that list, eliminate everything off that list that's stopping you. Think through if there's anything that you're doing to stop yourself. Now let's talk about from your perspective.
Okay.
When you go to look at everything that needs to be done, how do you approach it? And we'll kind of like finish it off with that. What was your approach to building out Commune? You kind of talked about it before, but what did you do specifically? Did you get whiteboards? I know you got some whiteboards, right?
Wait, what stage are we at here?
So
in the beginning?
No, let's just put it into perspective. You just launched a whole marketing push, right? You have a creative director, filmer, content creator. You have a lot of different positions right now. From the point of you going crazy because there was so much going on to the point you're at right now, how do you approach it?
I have somebody now who is an operations guy. He's way more to-do oriented.
So you looked and said, my weakness is operations. I need to bring someone on 100%. Who does operations.
Yeah, but what I needed, there's two sides of our business. That was what was new and challenging and exciting at the same time. As far as the operations of the real estate fund go, we've had that down since day one. It was all the brand side.
Can I stop you for 1 second?
Yeah.
I just want to point something out, like the reason I'm kind of harping on this. Me personally, I've seen Mikey become like a skater kid, like 19 years old, and build all these things and grow them into like these like beasts. And so the advice, like what you're giving right now is very valuable. That's why I want to like get it across to the audience. So I watched you do St. Archer, and I remember being out front of a restaurant, you go, we're going to start a beer company. And then I watched you do multiple other things, right? Your approach to building things out, I think, is really valuable. So keep going.
Okay, so I'll tell you right now, I believe in strength in numbers.
Okay.
So anything that I do that looks like it's super successful, it is never just me. I really believe that like I try to surround myself with people that are better than me and smarter than me, and as many of them as possible.
Yeah.
That's what I think it takes to build something successful. On this, we had the team for the operation side of real estate investing.
And just to be specific, those are like Randy and Brent and
and Brent and Jerry and April and Fia and Steven and we and Jeff. We've already had all the players at play to run, operate, raise, have a successful real estate fund. But a real estate fund is different than everything we're building. And that was the challenge of it, is like, okay, we have everybody in place here, but like we have no one on the brand and marketing side, because that typically doesn't exist for a real estate fund. You know, so as far as what we were doing with our buildings, we were doing really well on that end. There's a lot of stuff that we could get better at, of course, I hope forever. But that part was like pretty much running. It was this side that felt very all over the place. And that's where...
Before we go there, so just to put it into perspective, a lot of people talk about getting into real estate, and like, just to kind of clarify, that's why it's getting done on this high level. You just named off, I think, 7 or 8 people.
Yeah, dude, I had a call, Terry Adams, pro BMXer, DM me, text me, I had a call with him today. And like, he said the same thing. He was like, dude, I'm seeing what you're doing on social, and he already invests in multifamily. He's all doing it himself. He's like, it's crazy the level that you're doing it at. And people need to realize, I'm not like this like superpower that's able to just like, oh, I want to invest in real estate, boom, I'm going to do a real estate fund, we're going to be doing these huge products. And I'm not that.
That's why I'm pointing it out, because you've brought in this team and it's boosted
forever.
The levels.
I will always
super high.
100%. I'm very selfless in a sense of I need a team, and I don't need it all to be mine. You know, and that's how I go about everything. On the marketing side, I couldn't do all. Right? So I had to bring out a team to help me build this out and take all of this and actually put some type of structure to it.
And tell us about the structure.
So
as much as you can.
So structure was bringing on the people to help me build it out, right? So creative director, filmmaker, and I don't want to say producer, almost like brand manager, almost in a sense. And so it was like, okay, what do we want to accomplish? These are all the things we want to do. Okay, we're writing all these ideas on a board. We're in this talking. And after the meeting, I have my guy who's ops, of course, an hour later, there's an email with every single point that we talked about. And then the next day, there's a calendar to everything. It's just, there's people that hear what you say and put it together in a systematic way to approach it. That is not what I do. So I need that person around me where I go, okay, we're going to sit here and I'm going to throw up a ton of stuff at you. I need you to take all of this and put order to it. And so that's kind of what happened. It was, here's this, and then here's the to-do list, and then we look, we like this, we don't like this, and then all of a sudden we have, whether it's the whiteboard or an email or a to-do list in the calendar, these are all the things we're setting out to do, and then I have him to now schedule them. Hey, what's our first thing? Can you schedule that with these people? Yes. What's our next thing? And there's just systems now for us to be more efficient in creating it.
Okay, dude, that was super valuable. Anybody listening, it's almost like perfect example. The guy you talked to today, it's like, how are you doing this at such a high level? So I wanted to just illustrate that. I feel like you just did that really well. So that's the process, guys. You just went through that process first with the real estate fund side, now with the marketing, which is starting to, the P-Rod piece. If you guys haven't seen that, it's amazing.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, I'm like, Ryan did such a good job in that video. Paul's like one of my best friends. Like, I'm really proud of that piece. So please go check it out. I'd love for you guys to see it.
Yeah, go to communecapital.com. That piece, like, I got it before they put it out, and I probably watched it like 15 times. I just sat there like, amazing.
I think Paul is just like, I mean, he's like one of my closest friends, but like he's just, his outlook is like, it's very inspiring.
For sure. All right, so thanks for sharing that. Let's wind it down there. Just to recap, look at where you want to be, break it down systematically, and that's how Mikey did it with Commune Capital.
Yeah, and I will say this real quick, because I think this could be valuable. Before I got into doing what I'm doing now with Commune, I hit up as many people as I possibly could that were already doing it.
Oh, that's a good one too.
You know, like go ask people, ask questions. Maybe that's I try to never feel dumb to ask a question. Like, just ask, and people will usually tell you. So it's like, be around people, see how they're doing it, like absorb everything you can so that there's as little unexpected as possible as you go about it. And dude, get help. Like, it's that simple. Like, just get help.
It's funny, man. I'm actually learning a lot from this conversation because my approach is always so different. Like, so thanks for sharing that, dude. I feel like you killed it in this one.
Thank you.
Not that you don't always, but this was.
I'm on neurotropics right now. My brain's firing.
Shut up. Are you really?
No.
All right, you guys. There's Mikey Taylor's business system. You heard it here. All right, that's the end. Goodbye.